Welcome to the weekly Q&A session. Thanks for being with us. And let's start in Summit, New Jersey. Bonnie said, Lou, I heard New Jersey Governor Christie set the public employees straight on the financial shape our state is in. What a refreshing perspective from an elected official. I thought you might be interested to see what Bonnie's talking about as Governor Chris Christie responds to a law enforcement officer questioning how he can possibly deal with the same constraints and cutbacks that the private sector must deal with. Here's Governor Christie and the law enforcement officer.
We're on a step system where we work X amount of years till we reach top pay. The bill you introduced and signed into effect in December virtually eliminates that. Now, your proposal for medical benefits for us as state employees, you want us to pay 34% of $22,000 to $24,000, which roughly is $8,000, let's say, for argument's sake. With a 2% cap on a raise per year, how am I going to afford $8,000 to pay for medical benefits? I'm also a taxpayer, sir.
You're not.
Okay.
You're not going to afford it. What's going to happen is you're going to have to make choices among medical plans and have more choices than just 3 choices, which you have now, and only the Cadillac plan. You're going to have to make choices. Like everybody else is going to have to make choices in this economy. Everyone's having to make those choices. Oh, wait, I'll let you know. Secondly, what the 2% cap is intended to do is to deal with what have been runaway salary costs. 3 out of every $4 that are spent now in any municipality or county is spent on labor costs. We can't afford it anymore. You see yourself today, 45% of the police force at Camden was laid off last week. Why? Because that contract with the police unions in Camden is obscene. Shift differential. People getting an additional 11 or 12% just for showing up on a different shift, showing up to work. Paid birthday off. Sick days that can be cashed out at the end. You had 4 police officers in Parsippany who cashed out their sick leave for $900,000 at their retirement. Now, sick leave, in my view, is for when you're sick. And if you are fortunate enough not to be sick during the time of your career, you shouldn't get paid for it at the end. It doesn't happen in the federal system. The town of Parsippany had to bond. They had to borrow money to pay the sick leave. In Camden, the mayor went to the police unions and said, we're broke. The state just sent $68 million to Camden to try to help them to close their budget gap. They're still $24 million in the hole. They went and asked for concessions. They didn't get them. The unions refused. They called the mayor's bluff. The mayor said, if you refuse to give me concessions, I'm going to have to lay off 45% of the force. They said, you'll never do it. She did it. Because she's got no choice. So we have to reorient our expectations here. This is not 10 years ago. This is not a booming economy with 5 and 6 and 7% growth. We have no inflation. We cannot afford this stuff anymore. We can't. And the choice that's being made now, if the public sector unions continue to be resistant to wanting to be part of the change and to join in the sacrifice, they're going to lose jobs. They're losing them already. 161 police officers in Newark, 168 police officers in Camden, 110 police officers in Trenton. It can't be afforded anymore. And so I am sorry that I'm the guy who has to be here at the time when the party's over and when everybody's going to have to join in. And so what happens to you if you have to pay 1/3 of your health costs? Then you're going to have to choose which plan you think you can afford. There are folks, with all due respect, and I honor what you've done as a police officer, and I honor what every police officer who I've ever met and worked with, and I've worked with lots of them over the years I was in law enforcement, do. But in an economy where people are losing their jobs, where they haven't gotten raises in the private sector for years, the idea that the step system and the seniority pay system and an additional raise on top of that that's negotiated in a collective bargaining agreement can be paid for anymore by the people who are losing their homes because they can't pay their property taxes, because 3 out of every $4 in their property taxes go to pay labor costs. We just have to get real with each other. So my answer to you is, it stinks, but it's reality. And no one can be shielded from this reality anymore. Not police officers, not firefighters, not teachers. And I spent the last year fighting with the teachers union about this. So my point to you is, I understand why you're frustrated, and I understand why you're angry about it, and I understand why you feel cheated. I understand all that. But here's the thing. Whole bunch of politicians who came before me on the local level and on the state level made you promises that they couldn't keep. And they knew they couldn't keep them when they made them. So I understand you being angry, but I'd suggest to you respectfully, don't be angry at the first guy who came here and told you the truth. Because this is the truth, and I don't get anything for telling the truth. So, sure.
How am I going to be able to live here when my salary isn't even going to go up?
Well, because...
Before, I don't want to cut you off. Before I want to finish. I received a 2% increase in my salary 2 weeks ago, and my medical benefits started to come out. You know how much my check went up, sir? $4. How am I supposed to live with that?
Well, listen, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the difference. Shh, Eric, give me a second. Here's the difference. You're getting a paycheck. And there are 9% of the people in the state of New Jersey who are not. And if their property taxes continue to go up, to continue to pay for higher and higher salaries in the public sector, they'll lose their homes. And so I have to tell you, I understand your frustration about not getting a higher raise, but you go around this room and talk to people who are in the private sector who haven't gotten raises for years if they've been able to keep their job at all. So this is the economic reality we live in now. I wish it was different, but it isn't. This is the economic reality we live in now.
I thought the governor handled it perfectly. He couldn't have done better. And the law enforcement officer, obviously with an immense sense of entitlement. And the idea that one would ask, how he could deal with cutbacks or constraints when others, as Governor Christie pointed out, don't even have a job and haven't had jobs for a very long time. I agree with you, Bonnie, that the perspective that Governor Christie brings is refreshing. It's also to the point, it's straightforward, and it's honest. And that is something that is being, by the way, emulated across the Hudson River. New York Governor Cuomo, in office for less than a month, taking on the state budget and those who perpetrated literally fraud on the New York citizens for years. He is making, Governor Cuomo, a strong effort to bring reality back to Albany, the capital of New York State, and try to get things straightened out. Put this into stark contrast, if you will, with Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger in California and what he did. It's laughable. Well, it'd be laughable if so many people weren't being absolutely devastated by the budget crisis that California's in. A lot more has to be done. But at least we've got government officials at the state level awakening to the reality and doing something about it. That's what public service is all about. Cameron in Sarasota, Florida. I'm excited to see democracy begin to take hold in the Middle East, but I'm concerned groups like